Urban dwellers started off living shoulder to shoulder, then the great Australian dream of a home on a quarter-acre block. But with ever-increasing real estate costs, our housing is changing yet again. One of the latest concepts to surface is integrated housing, homes built on smaller allotments, generally in cluster arrangements. While the idea has been picked up by a number of Sydney councils, it's relatively new to the Hunter Valley. But Lake Macquarie Council is expected to give the go-ahead to a major housing development featuring homes on allotments as small as 232 square metres. That's around half the size of a regular building block.
It's the first time in the Hunter Valley that the SEPP 25, that's the integrated housing policy, has been put in force. And councils had tried to do this themselves to provide low-cost housing for first-home buyers, but wasn't able to because we don't have the expertise. Here we've got people with the expertise. They've come to council and they've provided a much-needed service.
The concept is in fact to integrate various types of accommodation so that we have integrated housing for younger people combined at the other end of the project with aged care housing, and there are two types of those. There's self-care and there's also hostel.
And prices, how will they compare to regular housing?
The prices will be lower, in fact, because the land content and the far greater efficiency in the services will enable the housing to be far more affordable.
Council has approved the subdivision of the 12.6 hectare site. The estate now hinges on development applications for each stage. Confident of success, the developers predict the first homes will be available for occupation by May next year. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
The Under-12s final, featuring Campbelltown in the red and Georges River in the white, gold, green and black, was played at a hectic pace and quickly eliminated any thoughts that softball was a sport for girls. The boys displayed tons of skill and pinpoint accuracy. Georges River pitcher Ben Mizuko has already established himself as a star of the future, and his talent alone kept his side batting for most of the game. Specialist batsman for the Georges River side, Anthony Lee, smashed the ball all over the park, allowing teammates to cross the home plate with ease. Georges River finally ran out easy winners. In 1994, the first Under-16s championship will be held. From those championships, a team will be selected for the World Series, and it's today's Under-12s that are being looked at to form the nucleus of the national side. While the softballers lapped up the sunshine, at Gateshead, teams were sweating it out in the State Indoor Hockey Championships. The men's B Division final between Newcastle in the white and green and Illawarra in the red and white provided plenty of action. At the start of the second half, and both sides set about notching up a quick morale-boosting goal. However, the quick reflexes of Newcastle goalie Colin Ford stopped Illawarra surging ahead after a number of downfield raids. With 40 seconds of play remaining, Illawarra were leading 6-5. When Newcastle's Jeff Tonks smashed a corner penalty into the back of the net to even the scores. Newcastle were then awarded another corner as the final hooter sounded. The outcome then rested on the shot from young Tonks. And he didn't disappoint, pushing the ball in for a Newcastle state title.
Two weeks ago, the Newcastle Shop Assistants Union received this letter from the Minister for Employment and Industrial Relations, John Fahey. He said there would be no extension to retail trading hours during the Christmas period. However, 3 days ago, the union heard via the grapevine that the government had reversed its decision and that Sunday trading had been given the go-ahead.
We're incensed with the government in reneging on written undertakings to both the union, the Labor Council and the churches, whereby they have said in writing as recently as 2 weeks ago that there would be no extension of trading hours on the Sundays before Christmas. And now, out of the blue, they've reversed that decision, so we're pretty upset about it.
At a meeting last night, the union voted to condemn the state government's change of heart and has advised its members not to work the next 2 Sundays. According to a spokesman for the Minister, John Fahey, the sudden reversal occurred because of public demand. However, Jeff Williams of the Shop Assistants Union says the move is unpopular and will only mean increased costs for the consumer.
It's not going to create any additional spending spree because people will have the same amount of money in their pocket. They won't buy additional clothing, they won't buy an additional refrigerator, they won't buy an additional TV just because the shop is open on a Sunday.
In the Hunter region, all Kmart stores and Grace Brothers at Charlestown will open on Sunday the 17th and Christmas Eve. However, David Jones will not be trading. Jodie McKay for NBN News.
To find specialty markets across the world, the company set about increasing production by installing 24 high-speed weaving machines at a cost of $2.4 million. They weave at such high speeds and temperatures that they have to be housed in a humidity-controlled room, requiring $1.5 million in air conditioning works. The machines are linked to a central computer, giving managers readouts on production levels and any breakdowns. $120,000 was also spent on purchasing an English colour design computer. It determines mixtures of dyes and their colour life in a mere 10 minutes, when normally it took a colour chemist 2 hours to work it out. The new machinery is also capable of increasing its material colouring of bed sheeting by 20% to 60,000 metres a week. The latest European technology has also been installed to produce stone and acid wash patterns, eliminating the need to place harmful pumice stones in machinery. Despite high levels of computerisation and automation with the new machinery, Managing Director Brian Smith gave assurances of job security.
We're not seeing any direct job losses. What we are doing, of course, is trying to expand our market. And as we expand our market, we will take those jobs that are displaced by the new plant into new operations.
The first accident occurred when a Chrysler sedan was hit from behind while waiting to turn right into Beaumont Street. A red Ford Falcon was sandwiched between the Chrysler and a Holden sedan. No one was injured in the collision, but no sooner had police arrived on the scene than the second accident occurred. Traffic had begun to build up and witnesses say it was obvious another accident was about to happen.
Well, the lady that was sitting in the white car there, she just come over. I could see it happening, and she just stood there, and that was it. You know, there was no brakes, no nothing. It was just straight into it. There's a bit of a brake mark there, but you can't see when you're coming over that hill at certain speeds, so it was no one's fault really, I don't think.
A white Nissan Pulsar travelling over the hill slammed into the back of a Mercedes. The passenger of the Nissan was taken to hospital with minor whiplash.
John, it's pleasing, as I say, to make this presentation.
Thank you very much.
Denise, again, as I said, there's a cheque for the $3,000 for the Stewart's. Association.
Thank you very much.
John, again, a cheque for $3,000.
Greenway's troubles began many months ago when a group of its clients complained to the Building Services Corporation about the length of time it was taking the company to complete their homes. The corporation launched an investigation and began a hearing in October. Greenway blamed the delays on poor weather earlier this year and difficulty in getting subcontractors. The hearing was suspended to allow the company time to catch up. Although Greenway managed to get ahead of some of the revised schedules, it still failed to meet others and again failed to satisfy the Building Services Corporation. The hearing ended last month with the matter listed for decision at the regular meeting today. The corporation decided to suspend Greenway for 12 months from domestic building, allowing the company only to finish the contracts it's already begun. General Manager of Greenway, Warwick Pollard, was this afternoon not prepared to comment as he hadn't been told by the corporation of the suspension. A spokesman did say Mr Pollard was speaking to his lawyers and will probably seek to have the matter heard in the civil courts.
Newcastle rejoices as the Knights take out their first premiership victory. The State Dockyard opened for business and Lake Macquarie declared a national park. Those stories and more in NBN's Hour of News.
As 1989 draws to a close, the headlines you've just heard are pure conjecture, but it's conjecture based on informed opinion. We asked some of the Hunter region's business and community leaders to reveal their predictions for the coming decade. Here now their blueprint for the future. First, industry and development.
Now, I see this coming decade as the most exciting, optimistic decade I can recall in my life.
Peter Morris predicts industrial restructuring will revolutionise Hunter industry. As pay increases are linked to productivity and job classifications are broadened, he anticipates an end to demarcation disputes and a more competitive regional economy. Also, a changing industrial base.
We'll see the spin-off coming from the $700 million worth of work to be done under the frigate contract. The firms that supply the major contractors there. We'll see development of electronics, electronic industries and associated industries. We'll see more work being done for the Navy. We'll see new industries coming into the region in lighter manufacturing and export type industries. So industry is going to come in and firms are going to relocate, establish and expand here because it just makes good business sense to do so.
The trade union viewpoint on the future of Hunter industry is not all that different, a mark perhaps of the growing harmony on the local industrial front.
Right at this point of time, I believe that we're on the tail end of coming out of the effects of the shakeout in the steel and the coal industry. And I believe that within the next couple of years we'll start to see a dramatic turnaround in the stagnation, if you like, of the regional economy. I believe that there are a number of major projects on the drawing boards which Newcastle companies are tendering for, the Frigate project and North West Shelf projects, which I believe will have a capacity to give that regional economy quite a stimulus.
There's no shortage of optimism about the next decade. Although the chairman of the Hunter Economic Development Council predicts a mild worldwide recession in the early 90s, he's confident Hunter industry is well placed to remain above water.
The container terminal that the Hunter Ports Authority is calling tenders for is a very important aspect. It's not only going to provide more activity in the port, but it's going to provide opportunities for manufacturing and processing industries to grow, for exports to go through the Port of Newcastle, which currently are going out of other ports. I see the dockyard becoming productive in the early 90s, so I think it'll be working in some form by the end of 1990.
Rising income levels, improved urban facilities and services, greater employment opportunities, and not just more jobs, but different types of jobs.
The federal member for Charlton shares the collective view that the region's traditional economic base will diversify. As Land Transport Minister, Bob Brown is sharing the hot seat over the region's roads. Recent tragedies have fuelled community outrage over the state of the Pacific Highway. As we move into the 1990s, that road's future remains unresolved.
If we could suddenly find $1.5 billion overnight, we would then be able to set to accelerate the development of that highway as a dual divided carriageway between Newcastle and the Queensland border. That should be our national objective.
Most would agree it takes more than a crystal ball to predict the Hunter's industrial and development outlook for the 1990s, but the economic speculators might take heart from the views of a Newcastle clairvoyant. Peering into the future, she foretells of a remarkably similar picture to that painted by the experts.
Well, I feel that they're going to get a lot more contracts coming this way. They missed out on the frigates, I knew they would, but there'll be other good things coming up in the next couple of years actually. In about 2 years' time there's going to be 3 major big contracts coming up to Newcastle, I feel.
And as for those predicted headlines, we'll have the opinions that back them up in tomorrow night's Look into the Future. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
Police believe the audacious robbery attempt began some time ago. Sensors in the Armour Guard depot began picking up vibrations 2 weeks ago, and there are other signs that the bandits had been hard at it. Working from a rented office with blacked out windows, the gang tunnelled 15 metres under an adjacent vacant office to the wall of the Armour Guard building. Then, in the early hours of Christmas Eve, when the vault was bulging with $5 million in Christmas takings, they attempted to blast through. The explosion was powerful enough to lift the concrete floor of the office and tore through 2 layers of steel and concrete, but still failed to penetrate the vault. It did set off alarms though, and the would-be millionaires quickly departed, leaving behind an array of equipment showing a well-prepared and financed operation.
Yes, we believe this is definitely the work of a professional outfit.
Police have been desperately trying to keep the attempted robbery quiet in the hope the criminals would return for their equipment. With that in mind, armed guards have been positioned both inside and outside the shop ever since the explosion. However, even today, with the news finally making headlines, the police are very reluctant to talk, and they refused us admission to the shop. What you can see through a hole in a window, though, is a large opening in the concrete floor, all the dirt that's been excavated, and a very large rented truck, presumably to take away the loot. Police say the office was rented in the name of a bogus transport company. Investigations into that and a number of other leads are continuing. Ross Hampton, NBN News.
Like the entire city, the Royal Newcastle Hospital also lost all power. The hospital suffered only minor damage to some of the older wings. Hospital officials evacuated all patients and transferred them to nearby parks and footpaths. Makeshift wards were set up handling various degrees of patients, while the casualty section took in those injured from the city district. Doctors and nursing staff stood by in full surgical gear to treat and move patients on as soon as they were delivered by a fleet of ambulances. The only power being supplied to the hospital was through a rescue squad diesel generator. Without enough power reserves available, it was decided surgery was too unsafe and all emergency cases were diverted directly to the Mater Hospital. With the hospital empty, firefighters were called in to clean up a number of dangerous chemicals that spilled when the quake hit. Hundreds of patients sprawled out on the grass in nothing but hospital gowns, many still plugged into vital dialysis machines and heart monitors. Tarpaulins were then strung out to provide shade as the temperature soared. As power was slowly restored to units, patients were moved back inside by orderlies and nursing staff. Tonight, the North and York wings of Royal Newcastle Hospital remain closed, and patients from those wings have been transferred to Belmont and surrounding hospitals.